Goblin Shark. Nature invented a jump scare. Most sharks bite. This one launches its face, which already feels like an unnecessary amount of enthusiasm. Meet the Goblin Shark, a 125 million-year-old predator that somehow survived dinosaurs, asteroid impacts, mass extinctions, and countless opportunities for evolution to intervene and say, maybe tone it down a little. Nobody did. It looks confused, pale skin, tiny eyes, and a nose so long it feels less like a shark and more like somebody accidentally stretched one in Photoshop and forgot to hit undo. But the real horror begins when it eats. Because its jaws don't open normally, they fire forward not a little, not enough to be surprising, enough to make it look like its mouth suddenly quit its job and moved closer to you. Imagine talking to someone and their entire face arrives 3 inches nearer without warning. That's basically what prey experiences. Scientists call this jaw protrusion. Normal people call it absolutely not. And here's the part that's somehow even creepier. The goblin shark doesn't really need to see you. Hidden all over its nose are tiny sensors that detect electrical signals, meaning your heartbeat, your muscles, even the movement of fish nearby, all create little electrical disturbances, and this thing can sense them. So while other predators are using eyesight, this thing is basically tracking life itself, which feels invasive, and because it lives hundreds of feet below the surface where sunlight gave up long ago, prey usually never sees it coming. 1 second you're minding your own business, the next second somebody's detachable face punches you, which feels rude. And somehow nature looked at this creature for 125 million years and repeatedly concluded, yep, keep the face launcher. Giant squid. The monster sailors weren't lying about for centuries. People laughed at stories about giant sea monsters. Turns out sailors were accidentally posting spoilers. Because giant squids are real, 40 feet long, eyes the size of dinner plates, and 2 feeding tentacles covered in rotating hooks. Not suction cups, hooks. Because apparently regular kidnapping wasn't enough. These creatures battle sperm whales, actual giants, and the scars left behind look like something from a medieval war. Imagine sleeping peacefully, then waking up and discovering you're fighting spaghetti made of knives. Honestly, if whales could talk, therapy would probably be mandatory. What's even crazier is that giant squids have the biggest eyes in the animal kingdom, about the size of basketballs, which sounds excessive until you remember where they live. Down there, sunlight doesn't exist, so enormous eyes help them detect faint flashes and even spot approaching whales. Basically, evolution installed IMAX cameras. Humans spent hundreds of years treating Kraken stories like drunken sailor fan fiction. Then in 2004, scientists finally photographed one alive, meaning history's response to sailors was basically, sure, Grandpa, let's get you back to shore. Turns out Grandpa was right, which is uncomfortable, because occasionally paranoia gets fact-checked and wins. Vampire squid. Dracula's Wi-Fi router. Nothing about this animal is helping its public image. It has glowing eyes, webbed arms, and when threatened, it turns itself inside out, which feels less like defense and more like emotional blackmail. Scientists named it the vampire squid. Fortunately, yes, it doesn't drink blood. It mostly eats marine snow, which is scientific language for dead stuff falling from above. Basically, the deep sea equivalent of surviving entirely on crumbs. Still, the watching it unfold its cape-like arms makes it look less like an animal, and more like Dracula's Wi-Fi router, which somehow isn't comforting. But here's the weird part. The water it lives in contains almost no oxygen. Most creatures would simply die. The vampire squid looked at that problem and said, skill issue. Its metabolism is incredibly slow, it barely moves, and it survives where many predators physically can't, which means this thing basically lives in the ocean's abandoned neighborhood, and when danger appears, it releases glowing clouds of blue mucus. Not ink, glowing slime. Because apparently disappearing wasn't dramatic enough. Everything about this creature feels like somebody combined a jellyfish, an umbrella, and a Halloween decoration. And somehow it works. If you've made it this far, you're officially too deep to leave now. Still coming up, a predator with invisible headlights. A fish whose teeth are too big for its own mouth. And trust me, they are completely ridiculous. So subscribe now while your sanity is still intact. Dragonfish the predator with invisible headlights. Most predators use light. The dragonfish decided everybody else shouldn't be invited. Because unlike almost every creature in the ocean, this thing produces red light, which sounds boring, until you realize almost nobody down there can see red. Meaning the dragonfish is basically walking around with night vision goggles while everybody else forgot batteries existed. Imagine being alone in a dark room. Somebody turns on a flashlight, except only they can see it, and you have absolutely no idea they're watching. That's terrifying. Its body absorbs almost all light. Its teeth are transparent, and some of its fangs are so ridiculously large, they don't even fit inside its mouth, which feels like poor planning. but somehow works. Scientists discovered that it can illuminate prey without revealing itself. Basically, the deep-sea equivalent of stalking someone with premium invisibility DLC. And remember, this monster is only a few inches long, which means somewhere beneath the ocean exists an assassin the size of a hot dog. And here's the scary part. Those transparent teeth don't reflect light, meaning prey can't even see the mouth that's about to eat them. Nature literally invented stealth technology before humans invented submarines. Which feels unfair, because at this point, the dragonfish isn't really hunting. It's cheating. And honestly, if aliens arrived tomorrow and showed us one of these, we'd probably call it science fiction. Meanwhile, Earth just quietly replies, "No, we've had those for millions of years." Barreleye Fish. The fish with a glass ceiling. At first glance, it looks normal, which is suspicious, because nothing in the deep sea stays normal for long. Meet the Barreleye Fish, the only creature that apparently forgot to install a skull. Its head is transparent, not metaphorically, literally. You can see through it. And those two green balls inside? Those are its eyes, except they rotate, meaning this fish can look upward, forward, and almost anywhere it wants. Which means somewhere in the ocean exists a fish wearing its brain like a sunroof? Scientists actually thought its transparent dome was damage caused by nets, because surely no animal naturally looks like this. Turns out, no, that's just its face. The Barreleye spends most of its life staring upward for food, which means evolution created an animal whose entire personality is basically something might fall. And its transparent dome isn't empty. It's filled with fluid that protects the eyes because deep sea pressure would otherwise turn life into soup. Honestly, if humans had transparent heads, job interviews would become significantly more uncomfortable because nobody wants to see someone buffering in real time. Fangtooth Fish. The teeth budget was too high. Deep sea animals love teeth. This one got greedy. Meet the fangtooth, a fish barely 6 inches long, with teeth so enormous but physically cannot close its mouth without special pockets inside its head. Think about that. Nature spent millions of years building this creature, and still had to add storage compartments for its own teeth. That's like manufacturing a car and then realizing the wheels don't fit. Despite looking like Satan's goldfish, the fangtooth mostly eats relatively small prey, which means somewhere in the darkness swims the ocean equivalent of a chihuahua trying very hard to look dangerous. And honestly, it's working. Baby fangtooths are silver and relatively normal. Adults evolve into tiny nightmares, which means puberty hit this species with malicious intent. And despite the pressure thousands of feet below the ocean, their bodies work perfectly. Scientists have found them over 3 miles deep, which means somewhere beneath us, a 6-inch fish with oversized fangs is swimming around like it pays taxes. And honestly, that's enough information for today.